Hey, just a quick ask. Bold and Boutique is completely free, no paywalls, no subscriptions. It's supported by people like you hitting that follow button. If you've been enjoying the show, even just a couple of episodes, would you mind tapping follow on Spotify? That small action makes a huge difference and lets us keep making this the way we want to make it. Thank you so much. Now back to the episode.
So to kick things off, can you walk us through the origin of influencer marketing and explain how the early celebrity endorsements set the stage for what we see today?
Absolutely. So, when we think about the origins of influence marketing, we really have to go back to the early days of celebrity endorsements. So, back then, brands discovered that celebrities were more than just famous faces. They were powerful icons who could shape public opinion and drive consumer behavior. So think about how Hollywood stars in the 50s and 60s were used to promote everything from like luxury cars to household products. Like their endorsements went beyond merely showcasing a product. They embodied like this kind of lifestyle, a sense of aspiration, and a deep rooted trust that resonated with the audiences. So, fast forward to today, and while the platforms have evolved, the core idea remains the same. So, the magic of influence lies in the connection um, to build trust and admiration. So, modern influencers are operating on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and they tap into this same principle with a more personal and relatable approach. So they offer like authenticity and a niche expertise that helps brands connect with their target audiences in innovative ways. And in essence, the evolution from celebrity endorsements to digital influencers marks a shift in the medium. But yet, the foundational power of influence persists.
And considering those early days, how do you think they shaped today's strategies?
That's a great question, actually. Yeah. So it's clear that several timeless elements of traditional influence continue to shape modern strategies. And one of the most enduring factors is trust. So back then, when a actor or a celebrity athlete endorsed a product, audiences invested their trust in that figure. Today, even though the medium has shifted to social platforms, um, that same trust builds the influencer consumer relationship. So, influencers are seen as voices whose recommendations come with credibility.
So you see trust as a key element.
Yes, I think trust remains the foundation for any meaningful engagement. I think audiences are drawn to those who inspire them and believe are genuine. And this is what fuels long term brand loyalty and ensures that recommendations are taken seriously.
Another subject you've touched on is storytelling. Can you elaborate on how storytelling has continued to play an important role?
Yeah, certainly. I think the most successful early endorsements were never just about showcasing a product. They were about crafting compelling narratives that resonated emotionally with consumers. So today, modern influencers do the same by combining personal stories with brand messaging. This blend creates an engaging narrative that not only makes products feel relevant, but also aspirational in a way.
What do you mean by aspirational?
Well, traditional endorsements capitalize on the allure of an idealized lifestyle, setting a benchmark of perfection. And today's influencers also maintain an aspirational image, but one that's more relatable and grounded in everyday experiences. For example, they inspire audiences to envision a better version of themselves without compromising on authenticity, for example.
And when platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok arise, how did they revolutionize the way influencers connect with audiences?
I think the emergence of these platforms reshaped the influencer landscape in profound ways. For example, Instagram, with its visually driven approach, enabled influencers to create not just content, but an entire aesthetic. It gave them the power to tell a story through images and short videos, offering a more intimate glimpse into their life. Meanwhile, for example, YouTube opened the doors to like long form content, allowing influencers to dive deeper into topics, offer detailed reviews, tutorials, and even like personal vlogs that build like trust and authority over time. And this extended format encouraged a more personal connection, making viewers feel like they were like part of this ongoing narrative.
And what about TikTok?
Its algorithm is particularly adept to pushing creative niche content directly to interested users, ensuring that influencers can rapidly build and engage communities around like a specific interest. And together these platforms have like transformed influencer marketing into this dynamic interactive conversation where authenticity and like real-time engagement are at the heart of how influencers connect with their audience today. AI isn't the future anymore. It's the interface people are using right now to search, learn, ask questions, control products, and make decisions. But there's the problem. Most of these interactions feel generic, robotic, forgettable. At Voice Branding, we design AI experiences that feel unique, intentional, and on brand. We work with stakeholders, designers, and product teams to shape how AI-driven products and services show up, from the first look and feel to the final impression. Because when your brand starts talking, it should sound right, and it better say the right things. Email me at phoebe@voicebranding.ai. That's PHOEBE@voicebranding.ai, and let's talk. We've got over a decade of experience and we're ready for your business. Now, let's go back to the conversation.
Right. And we've seen a significant shift from follower-driven content to algorithm-driven content engagement. How has this transition impacted influencers?
Yeah, that's definitely an insightful point. I think with the rise of algorithmic driven engagement, influencers' tactics have had to evolve considerably. I think in the early days, content was more like follower driven, crafted primarily to resonate with a dedicated community that trusted the creator's content and authenticity.
And how do you see influencers adapt their strategies to this? I mean, the changing algorithms.
So now influencers are constantly tweaking their strategies to appeal to the ever changing algorithms of the platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. And this means like optimizing posting times, using trending hashtags, altering content style to boost reach and engagement metrics. And while this data-driven approach can sometimes like pressure influencers into like following trends that may not really perfectly align with their natural voice, I think many are finding like innovative ways to strike a balance there. They can like leverage analytics to understand more what resonates with their audience while maintaining that authenticity that made them popular in the first place. So what this does is that it challenges creators to blend a strategic and result-oriented approach while having to maintain like this genuine and authentic story in today's digital landscape.
Could you share some insights or statistics that illustrate the impact of human influencers on branding and consumer behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so much data that underscores the tangible impact human influencers have on branding and consumer behavior. For instance, There are like numerous industry studies that indicate that for every dollar spent on influencer marketing, brands can see an average return of nearly $5.78. So this is quite an impressive return on investment that highlights how influential authentic voices are converting engagement into sales. Consumers today, like particularly millennials and Gen Z, are significantly swayed by recommendations from online personalities, with studies showing that like 70 to 80% consider influencer endorsement when making like purchase decisions.
And how do these statistics translate into actual marketing success for brands?
So these numbers really demonstrate that when trusted influencers share their genuine experiences, it creates this kind of like ripple effect of trust that encourages potential customers to take action. And this isn't just a numbers game, or it isn't just about numbers. It's about real consumer behavior and the lasting impact of authentic endorsements.
And what about long term brand loyalty? How do influencers contribute to this?
I think influencers excel at building brand loyalty and creating communities around a product or a service. I think influencers of great impact have like this kind of storytelling ability and create some transparency that enables trust and encouraging audience to not only try a product but also become long-term advocates. So, in many cases, influencer driven content achieves engagement rates 2 to 3 times higher than traditional advertising. So, this high engagement stems from the personal connection influencers develop with their followers, making their endorsements feel more like advice from a friend rather than just like this commercial pitch, for example.
So, human influencers are bridging the gap between brands and consumers on like a whole new level. But how do you see this evolving into the future?
I think looking ahead, human influencers will remain a driven force in marketing for sure, evolving alongside emerging technologies to deliver a more authentic and personalized experience. However, I do believe standing out is becoming increasingly more difficult with the rise of content creation tools and AI driven applications. I think like nearly anyone can become a content creator, flooding the space with a lot of competition. And as a result, maintaining originality and authenticity is more challenging than ever, pushing influencers to constantly innovate in order to stay ahead and to stay relevant.
Right. And now that AI is entering the scene, what would you say is changing? What is happening right now? What kind of opportunities does this technology create?
With AI stepping into the picture, we're now witnessing the rise of virtual influencers who can like leverage advanced algorithms to craft content that's like personalized and engaging. For example, AI can generate lifelike virtual avatars that not only mirror human expression and behaviors, but they can also operate around the clock without any constraints of human limitations. So, marketing and branding teams can really adapt these digital personas and personalize these digital personas, allowing them to suit different audiences and demographics.
Yeah. I get the pros of virtual influencers or virtual brand ambassadors. But what are some of the challenges?
I think one of the key challenges for AI driven virtual influencers is establishing and maintaining transparency. So, unlike human influencers who naturally give off authenticity through shared experiences and genuine vulnerability, for example, AI influencers must be upfront about their algorithmic origins. So, this upfront nature can sometimes lead audiences to question the sincerity of their recommendations, of course.
But human influencers also deal with challenges, right? For example, I hear a lot about burnouts and being afraid of audience fatigue. How do you see this problem evolve?
Yeah, that's a good observation. Um, I think while human influencers often deal with burnout and audience fatigue due to the relentless demand for fresh and engaging content and personal pressure of staying authentic, they inherently bring a human touch that resonates on an emotional level. And this genuine connection, however, comes at the cost of energy and can lead to creative exhaustion over time.
Which can also lead to audience fatigue, of course, and more pressure in general to perform. But how would you say this exhaustion affects their long-term ability to sustain engagement?
I think the continuous need to produce high quality and relatable content can wear down even the most passionate content creators, sometimes resulting in less consistent engagement over time.
And it seems logic that this pressure becomes bigger over time with AI generated content and competing with AI influencers, etc.
Perhaps yes, because I think virtual brand ambassadors or virtual influencers can operate in a different realm. Being AI powered, like virtual brand ambassadors don't suffer from fatigue in the traditional sense. They can engage continuously without the need for rest. However, this always on nature introduces challenges of its own. For instance, a virtual brand ambassador or virtual influencer must be meticulously programmed to maintain that authenticity and cultural relevance across diverse and a global audience, which isn't always straightforward. And I think additionally, there's a constant battle to ensure they evoke the same warm and human connection as their human counterparts. So, in essence, while human influencers battle the natural limits of our human energy, I think virtual influencers must overcome the hurdles of replicating genuine emotional engagement in this like algorithmic driven world.
And if we think of the future, how do you envision the coexistence of human and virtual influencers?
So I think the coexistence of both allows brands to leverage the strengths of each, the reliability and trustworthiness of human influencers alongside the cost effectiveness and creative freedom and scalability of virtual ones. And I think this hybrid approach enables more comprehensive and flexible marketing strategies catering to diverse audience preferences. Hold that thought. Here's a quick word from our partner. Here is what a simple yet professional video podcast setup looks like. Let me walk you through the setup I'm using at the studios of podcastproducties.nl. For this podcast, we're using Panasonic cameras with a 1440mm lens, a Sigma wide-angle lens, and a third cam for dynamic shots. In the studio, you can sit or stand at the table that fits 2, 4, or even 6 people. Regarding mics, we're using the legendary SM7B mounted on sturdy arm stands. Lighting, 2 Godox lights with softboxes and some spots for that smooth, flattering glow. There's also a sleek central screen, and we use a customizable backdrop in the color blue that you can choose in any color. The studio is optimized with acoustic panels for clean, studio-grade sound. Audio runs through an RME Fireface straight into Pro Tools. Honestly, it's a setup I love working with. And if you also want to collaborate with podcastproducties.nl, their studio is in Amsterdam and they're ready for you. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
For the next part, let's focus our conversation on the design of a virtual brand ambassador. My first question would be, how do you view the relationship between a virtual brand ambassador's personal brand and a company brand or the company's core values?
I see virtual influencers as more than just an individual with a unique voice. I think it's a strategic extension of the brand. I mean, their individual persona is often designed to be like a creative reflection of the company's culture, values, etc.
And why would you need a creative reflection of the brand?
Well, I think about it this way. People don't really connect with a faceless company logo, for example, or a faceless company in general. So they need someone to, or something they can relate to. And that's why having like this creative reflection of the brand through like a virtual brand ambassador or a human influencer is so powerful. It takes all the core values, the mission, and the culture of the company and turns them into like this living, breathing persona that people can engage with.
Figuratively speaking, of course.
Yes. But, a virtual brand ambassador or virtual influencer embodies a brand narrative, making the brand more than just words or an image. They're they're like this creative personification of the brand, making it more relatable and memorable. And even though they're not really alive, a virtual brand ambassador can definitely bring a brand narrative to life. People can relate to characters and also characters and stories. They make us feel things. And I think a feeling is the most important thing a brand is selling.
I remember when I was a kid, when I was watching The Karate Kid for the first time, immediately after seeing this movie, I would ask my parents if I could do karate as well.
Yeah, I think you were not the only one.
No, probably not.
No, but really, we easily identify with characters. They can like resonate ideas and activate desires. It's very powerful.
Yeah. So, how do you merge the style and identity of a character or a virtual brand ambassador with the established identity and purpose of a brand?
I think it's all about intentional alignment. So you need to integrate distinctive storytelling and creative character design with existing brand foundational pillars. So every piece of content, every touch point should be crafted to resonate personally with the audience while reinforcing the core message of the brand or the product or the service the brand is providing. And the personal narrative of the virtual influencer or the virtual brand ambassador is very important in itself and should stand out on its own. But it should also enhance the company's stories or the brand story. So from the start, look for a balance. You want a blend of individual expression and brand consistency.
And in practical terms, how do you ensure that a virtual brand ambassador remains a vehicle for the brand rather than overshadowing its message?
Well, first of all, overshadowing it is only a problem if the story of the virtual brand ambassador isn't on brand. I mean, hypothetically speaking, if the ambassador becomes so successful that it takes center stage, what's the problem? As long as the feeling and message it conveys doesn't diverge from the company brand.
Yeah, I get that. But how do you manage this? I guess what I'm asking is, how do you create an on-brand virtual brand ambassador?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked all the time. Um, and my short answer is you study the brand, you design a perception profile describing how the virtual brand ambassador should be perceived. Then you create a character or multiple characters, and then you conduct perceptual research with the target audience to learn about their perspective. So, based on those learnings, you either optimize your initial designs or your initial design characters or start from scratch.
All right. And can you walk me through the process, your initial steps, specifically when you say start by studying the brand. What exactly does this mean? Do you begin with an audit of current brand materials, stakeholder interviews, or customer insights to pinpoint the brand's core values and personality, or something else?
Sure. So I start with a process I call conceptualizing company brand fundamentals. And the exact approach depends a little bit on whether you are designing for an existing brand or if you aim to build something new, or perhaps your goal is to design more like a virtual influencer that other brands may want to work with.
Okay. Yeah, let's say we want to design a virtual brand ambassador for an existing brand.
Right. So in that case, the first thing I do is gain a thorough understanding of the brand values, its essence, its culture, its mission. I start by auditing the existing brand, the brand guidelines. And because more often than not, the goal is to design a virtual brand ambassador who's there to amplify the brand's message, not to diverge from it. So you want to be able to inspire and steer the conversation in a way that's both engaging the target audience and consistent with the company brand.
And what exactly do you do when you audit a brand?
Well, the exact approach to auditing and researching a brand might slightly differ per client. But I often find myself going through similar steps. For example, I always review the visual brand assets. So I learn about the logos, colors, typography, other visual design elements to see if they are designed with a strategy in mind, if they are effective at conveying the predefined perceptual values, for example.
So, how do you find out whether or not the visual brand assets are effective? Are you testing this with customers?
Sometimes, but in such tests, I don't solely focus on visual design assets to learn about the current perception of the brand from a customer's perspective. Besides that, sometimes there is existing research and customer brand perception research or knowledge that I can review. So, alternatively, you conduct secondary research and study relevant existing information out there about the brand.
Okay, so one way or another, the main goal is to learn more about the current perception of the brand from a customer perspective.
Well, not just that, you also want to learn about the company's objectives and the purpose of the brand. What exactly is the message that needs to come across, and how does the company intend customers to perceive the brand?
So you study what the company intends to achieve and what the actual customer is expecting right now.
Yeah, the combination is key. So you need to know what the company wants, but also keep in mind that a brand is ultimately what customers think and feel about it. So if these things are not aligned when you focus on a specific target audience, for example, you want to be aware of this when designing a virtual brand ambassador to achieve better results.
That makes sense, but this goes beyond visual brand assets, I assume.
Oh, definitely. It's not just visual shaping customer perception. When you audit a brand, you also focus on things like, for example, the tone of voice. You'll look into taglines, slogans, all the written content. You really need to understand and be able to describe the overall tone of voice of the brand. And again, this is just like the tip of the iceberg. You can also like look into the brand history, its story, the brand values, of course, the identity, perhaps personas that they already developed or previous personas that they already designed. But also you can learn about competitors and what differentiates the brand from its competitors, et cetera, et cetera.
And what is the goal of this part of the process?
The end goal is to get a knowledgeable foundation based upon you can start to conceptualize the design of an on-brand virtual ambassador. So, to make things a bit more concrete, the primary goal of the first phase of a project is to set up a foundational research report in which you define your guidelines and a comprehensive understanding of the brand and the audience. And this documentation also includes a design direction for further developments based upon your learnings. And furthermore, it includes an expectation. It includes requirements, objectives, guidance, and like a full strategy for the development of a virtual brand ambassador. In the age of AI, your brand starts to talk, interact, and respond in real time. Our cohort courses, bootcamps, training days, and workshops are built for teams and individuals who want to shape that future, not chase it. Go beyond building generic technology and build unique experiences. Go to boldandboutique.com and explore our sessions from a half-day inspiration workshop to a full 5-day design bootcamp. Hope you enjoyed this episode. My name is Phoebe O'Han, and catch you next time.